Good morning, everybody. We have a really special guest on the Fireside chat today. This is Jennifer Gunn. Jennifer Gunn is the piccolo player for the Chicago Symphony and probably, in my opinion, the best piccolo player I've ever heard. And not just my opinion, a lot of the colleagues that I work with just adore and love Jen Gunn as a person, but I mean, her piccolo playing is really the icing on the cake for the orchestra. Let's go online and see if we can find Jen here in the list of people who are watching and joining us. Maybe she's not on yet. We've got a couple of people watching that I'd love to say hi to. I think we have Ignacio Del Rey. Ignacio, I have my fun hair today. Thank you very much. He was sad that I was combing my hair. It's gotten a little bit long with the coronavirus, so I still have to figure out how to, keep it happy. And let's see, we have Mariella. Great to see you, Mariella, from Finca Horns. Say hi to Johannes for me. He's making great horns in Germany. Let's see, we have John Ye. John Ye says, I love Jen. And I just think that's a universal sentiment in the orchestra. I mean, she's just such a wonderful colleague and such a wonderful part of the orchestra. It's just, to hear piccolo playing that's so easy and so in tune and, just beautiful. Usually when you hear piccolo, you're just like, oh, it's so loud, it's so high. But when you hear Jen play, it's beautiful. And it really sounds like that's her voice when she's playing. Let's see if we can find Jen here. And here she is. There's Jen. And if we just go online, we'll add Jen. There we go. So waiting, we're connecting. Hey, there you are. Jen, how are you?
So I'm trying to set myself up inside now because you said it was too bright in Texas.
Hey, rub it in. Rub it in. I know. So we have this gray, cloudy weather here. It's raining. And, it's like spring should be. And in Texas, it's just gorgeous every day, right?
Yeah. Well, it hasn't, to be fair, it hasn't been great every day, but pretty great every day.
Hey, so have you had any of those amazing Texas thunderstorms? Do you ever get those in Houston?
We're in Austin.
Austin, okay.
Yeah. We do get thunderstorms, but I am really scared of thunderstorms. So for me, they're not awesome.
Oh no. For me, that was like the first time I was in a Texas thunderstorm. I remember like the thunder was like shaking the windows and the roof, and it just felt, you could feel the thunder in your chest. And I just remember thinking, this is like something I've never experienced. And you get those lightning bolts that just go down like the sky.
It's scary. It's too scary for me.
I know, it's like biblical level storm, right? So
Is lighting okay, David?
yeah, you look great. Fantastic.
Well, and you're gonna hear dog barking, and you might hear clarinet practice. So
Hey, it's real. It's live.
yeah,
I mean, otherwise it's,
real life in the Gunn house.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So tell us about your family. You have how many puppies?
Well, they're all puppies, I guess, to me. But we have 3 dogs. Dolly is 9. She's a French bulldog. Spencer is also 9. Hi, John. The dogs are downstairs, still making an appearance. Spencer's 9. He's about 5 months younger than Dolly, and
Wow.
about 60 pounds bigger. He's Black Lab, if I didn't just say that. And then our baby is Murphy. He's another French bulldog.
And he just had a birthday recently, right?
He had his 18th month birthday. So
Yay, Murphy! Happy birthday! Feliz cumpleaños!
he's a handful, but he's definitely makes life lively around this house. So if the barking you hear will probably be him.
Well, if he starts barking, you got to bring him on camera, okay? So I couldn't
He's
help.
gonna like knock down the camera and everything.
I couldn't help but notice that you have a little bit of Chicago in your room there. It's a picture of the, is that the Georges Seurat? That's the one from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, this is my husband's, my other part of my family is my husband, Jonathan. It's his favorite painting. So we bought a nice poster when we were at the Art Institute and had it framed and stuff.
Fantastic. I remember I had that on the cover of a math book when I was growing up.
Yeah. I've seen it lately, like people are making memes out of it where everyone's like they've photoshopped it with masks on the characters, or Lori Lightfoot's like in the painting, you know. It's kind of funny.
Amazing. John Ye is watching, and John says, Sunday in the Park with George.
Yep, that's the name of the painting.
Is
Yeah.
it really? No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. Well, yeah, John was just saying how much he loves you, and I think the sentiment is just like universal in the orchestra and in the city. It's just, we just adore you. I mean, I think you're one of my favorite parts of the Chicago Symphony, but you're kind of the cherry on the top. It's just like, you know, every time we think about like what makes a wind section or an orchestra great, it's the very top and the very bottom, right? And like those two parts, I mean the piccolo and the tuba. And I think we have, I'm biased, but I really think that we have some of the best of the best. You know, you and Gene Picorni.
We have a good time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, you're also really humble, and that's one thing I just love about you is like you always do your best. You always bring your A game. You're always 150% prepared, and you always try hard. And it's such a pleasure to try to be on that level with you. I'm not saying I'm there yet, but I keep trying. I see people like you, and I'm just like I want to bring my A game because I know you're always bringing your A game.
Well, you do. You certainly do.
Thank you, Jen. So could you tell me a little bit about where you're from and just kind of, like how you got started with music?
Yeah, so I'm from Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. And for people that are Pennsylvanians, that's in Snyder County, dead center of the state. It's, very rectangular, long west to east state. And I'm from the middle, north of Harrisburg, which is the state capital. My parents still live in the house I grew up in, and I have an older brother, 2 years older than me, and a twin sister.
Fantastic.
And yeah, music was, I'm not from a musical family per se, but my aunt plays piano and organ, or did. She's sort of retired from that, but still plays her piano. And we always had a piano in the house, and music was important. All of us had to do piano. I don't remember when I started, but
oh wow, that was like my family too. Yeah, we all started on piano, and like some of my first memories are my brother practicing like a Beethoven sonatina. I was like, Beethoven again.
I was sort of the one who was. I wish that I would have, like you. Well, you're going to ask me some stuff later. I wish that I could tell myself to go back in time and really pay attention and practice my piano.
Yeah, I think.
But when I was that age, I didn't want to, and but I have a twin sister, and my twin sister's. I think you'd like her. She's very focused, and she never flailed from like that focus. So I don't know. We should ask my mom. I don't know how many times I quit piano and started piano and quit piano and started piano and quit piano. But my sister never quit. So I remember, we were like chugging along at the same, trajectory, and then I would quit and fall behind, and then she would start practicing. And I remember like her playing, Beethoven's Fiorelise, that everybody learns, but I couldn't do it because I had quit and then that made me mad that so then I was like, no, I'm getting back to piano lessons because I need to play Fiorelise too.
And you're like, check it out. I got the first page down, right? You're like, I can do this.
Right now, I think I could play it with my right hand, but there's no way this left hand's just like.
Yeah, I mean, putting them together. I got the left hand, but then I put the right hand there, and I'm like, then I put them together. I'm just like, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, but my sister can still play piano, and I sort of, Jonathan and I both wish we had a piano, but we've moved so many times. We can get into that later, and we keep talking about getting a piano, and then, well, we move again and whatever. And then I think to myself, if we just had a piano, and then I stop and realize, well, how many pianos are at Symphony Center that I can touch every day, and all I do is close the lid and put my flute on
it? They make great tables, right? No, I'm kidding. I would never do that. So we've got a few people who are watching in the audience. We've got, let's see, Jayla is a horn student of ours from Roosevelt. We've
Hey.
got Michael Holmes. Michael's watching. And we have Min Flute. She says, we love you. Let's
Oh,
see, Basset Hounds 3 gives you a lot of love.
that that's Laura Schaefer.
Zach, really?
Yeah.
We've got Paul Luxembourg from over in Hong Kong Philharmonic.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have it's a lot of people that are watching today. So I guess
I see one that I recognize. Hi, Francesco.
that's awesome. Yeah, it's a lot, like people's like names aren't necessarily in their
Yeah.
feed, so it's hard to kind of pick them
Oh,
out.
and Anatolia, hi.
That's awesome. And then we've got hi from Puerto Rico, Arena
Oh,
Goldwasser.
yeah.
Oh,
And hi,
hi, Arena.
Beth.
Yeah, fantastic. She's our assistant conductor, Arena.
No,
Arena.
I think that is Arena. Wait, the little icon's gone. I think that's Arena from Pittsburgh, Viola, right?
Oh, it
Maybe.
is. You're right. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah. So, could you tell
Hi,
me about
Liza. Oh,
how,
hi, everyone.
how did you start playing flute? Where did the flute come in?
So, um, in my school district, at the age of, well, it would be 9 or 10, when you hit fourth grade, you could pick a band instrument. And so, my brother's 2 years older, so he started playing drums. And then, we were all playing piano. I think hi, Mark, my brother quit piano way before I did, so I wasn't as big of a quitter as I'm making myself out to be. But anyway, so my brother did percussion, and then 2 years later, my sister and I could pick instruments, and she picked clarinet. So, I've been paired with a clarinetist my entire life, and multiple clarinetists, and I love them all. And then I actually picked saxophone because when I was in elementary school, like those pop bands with saxophone were really big, like Huey Lewis and the News. Like I was in love with Huey Lewis and the band Chicago and all that, and all
What
this.
about dee da 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 dee Careless Whisper? Did you ever
Oh yeah,
yeah
that was really
George
big.
Michael's?
I mean, like when I was 10, that was 86. So, this was pretty hot stuff. I know Michael's very happy I started on sex. Anyway, but I was also,
Michael
I,
says no Careless Whisper.
I was also really little, like a tiny little thing. And my sister and I would walk home from school, to and from school. And that saxophone was big and heavy. It was big old Bundy case.
Yes.
And she had her little tiny clarinet case, and I'd ask her to switch with me and stuff halfway home. And eventually she was like, I've caught on to you. No, I'm not carrying your saxophone anymore. And I was like, hmm. And so I've told this story before to other people, but I must have gone to my mom like I did every time I wanted to quit piano lessons, and went to her and like cried about it. Like, I don't want to play this. And I probably said, "Well, I don't want to play saxophone anymore. It's too heavy." And I wanted to play violin always. And
Really?
my mom wouldn't let a violin in the house. I mean, you know what kids sound like when
Yes,
they
yeah. A
start
little
violin.
screechy. Yeah, I got my nephew plays.
But I didn't. She's like, no violin. And so she said, well, how about she knew me even then, I guess. She said, well, how about the flute? It's small and it's shiny and pretty. So I started the flute.
So when you started the flute, like I mean, obviously the embouchure is different, like the sound is completely different. It's like different even how you hold it. Like, were you happy with the sound when you started it, or were you kind of like, oh man, I wonder why I chose this, or did you instantly fall in love?
No, I don't remember a lot from age 10, but I do remember saxophone was easy for me. At age 10, I don't know how many saxophone players there were, but I was pretty good. I was like one of the better little saxophone players. The thing that helped is the fingerings are mostly the same at that beginner level,
Huh.
playing hot cross buns and
Yeah.
stuff. And And when I started flute, that was like, I don't know, halfway through fourth grade. And I'm from a small town, so the band director would come to the elementary school to teach the high school band director would come to
Mm.
the elementary school to teach the little kids like once a week, I guess. I don't remember. But so I said I wanted to quit. So that was Mr. Panino. And he said, well, then you can come to the high school after school every day, at 3 o'clock and catch up and learn the flute so you can catch up with the other girls. Well, I think they were all girls in the flute class. Um, that, already they've learned their how to blow and all that. And because when you start the flute, it's pretty hard. It's you blow a lot and
Yeah.
you get lightheaded and I remember, maybe I've exaggerated this in my brain, is that I could not make a sound on the thing for 3 months. It was like, and because it's not easy, but once I got it, life is a blur. I don't remember a lot from that part of life, but I do remember my mom finally let me try the violin in sixth grade. So that's
Wow.
2 years later.
Yeah.
And by that point, the flute was easier than the violin. So I was like, that's okay. I'll play the flute.
Do you ever go back and play like violin repertoire on the flute and you're like, see, I can still do it. I still got
No, well, I mean, I guess by default, there's a lot of stuff transcribed for the flute, like all the Paganini caprices and
yeah.
stuff. I think every instrument family has violin pieces sort of transcribed for them. So
Yeah.
I don't think I've on purpose done it. I've just like, oh, this volume of etudes is for the flute. Oh wait, originally for violin. But yeah. But then in high school, my sister and I, our program was so small that there was like one or two people that played a string instrument, but the band director wanted to help them out and fill out a string ensemble. So in high school, my sister played cello and I played viola.
Really?
Yep. And my sister, again, she was pretty good at she, by the way, also learned to play flute so we could go home and play flute duets. Because so we'd play flute and clarinet duets.
So I gotta ask. All right, so are you identical twins?
Yeah, we are.
Did you ever do that Freaky Friday thing where she showed up and she was playing flute and you
No,
played
we did
like
not.
clarinet? You never did you have like you're like one has glasses and one has a big, ponytail or
We did. My mom was, I think, smart. We were separated. Our classrooms, we were always in separate classrooms from the time we were in kindergarten.
okay.
So we really have, although we look very much alike, same hair, same eyes, same coloration, same, even though we don't even live anywhere near each other, we have very similar gestures with our hands and the way we are crazy. But but my mom kept us separate, and I think that was good because we were really, I think we're very individual people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my brother has twins, and they're not identical twins. They're fraternal. They're boy and girl. Yeah, but it's just it's interesting to see how they're so close, but yet they're so different. And
Yeah.
with a boy and girl there. But so in high school, you started playing the viola, and your sister played flute, so you could do flute duets. I mean, I can't help but to think how nice it'd be to play music with a family member.
Yeah, and I know this might come. Hi, Karen, I love you too. This might come up later, but I've been thinking a lot about you know because we're all stuck at home, and I was telling some friends about this, but when my sister and I were little, and even in high school, um, we we would play for each other.
Yeah.
It was like music was something that we shared very intensely and still do. Um, I'm getting texts from Michael Holmes
Oh,
right now.
he says, headed out on the boat, much love from Florida.
Yeah. Anyway, but music was something my sister and I really, really shared almost privately, kind of. But and I was talking to my mom about this too. I'm a pretty introverted person, so I don't really know why I play the piccolo, but I do. And so when we're all here alone at home, um, I found it really difficult to um, like I want to share stuff with the world, but then I get a little anxious about it, and so um, I recorded stuff and just sent it to my sister. Just like out of the blue, just stupid
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
a line of an etude. Like I just want to play this for you because I know you'll love it without any judgment or
Mm.
just a pure love of this. So when we were in high school, we used to like race home from like run, walk home before mom and dad got home from work. I don't know where my brother was in this equation, but anyway, my sister and I would go home and she would play piano and I would sing. And the minute the door would open, like a parent or my brother, somebody come home, we would stop. And nobody else could. That was like our little private time, and nobody else was allowed to share
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know. It was kind of goofy, but
What would you sing? Would just pop tunes, or would you sing like classical or hymns or?
oh, Les Mis was super popular and Phantom of the Opera. So we had all those like Broadway books,
Yeah.
like simplified piano stuff, and then I would be Christine from Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, amazing. That's awesome. Well, sometime, maybe on tour when we go do karaoke, maybe, we can do a revival of like this on tour.
Well, that will have to be a very private event. Yes.
Well, yeah, what you were backing up to what you're saying about recording things and being shy about putting them out. I feel like maybe the perception of me is that I'm an extrovert, and to a certain extent I am. But I think when I do record something, there's always that fear of like, oh man, what are people going to think about this? How are people going to judge me? And how could this? And it's scary to like post something online.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
and I think in this time, because we're kind of isolated, I've been posting more things because it's like, hey, I just want to help reach out and share something with maybe a younger musician that might not have access to a concert. I want to share something with an audience member who really misses the symphony and can't see it.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more things that I share, the more kind of awareness it gives to the Chicago Symphony and to musicians that hey, we aren't playing right now, but like we still love music, we're still practicing, and we still
Yeah.
have this immense urge to share.
Yeah. And I think all of us are doing it in whatever way is comfortable for us. I mean, I love what you're doing with, I mean, you've seen me watch. I'm like watching
Thank you.
you do these interviews, and it's so inspiring for me. And like I said the other day, I haven't been able to watch every one of them, but I love hearing stuff about my colleagues I never knew
Yeah.
because we're so busy when we're at work,
Yes.
just doing what we do. Yes, we know each other, but we don't have this time to like intensely like ask these questions. Hey, where'd you grow up, and what was music like when you were little? And we don't get to do that very often, so I think it's just enriching me to the point where when we come back, just like last year, unfortunately, but this is a
Yes.
different situation, but I feel like when we all come back together, it's going to be so intense in a great way. I think we're just all gonna explode. That the roof of that building might blow off. I think we're just gonna be so excited to be there.
Yeah, I can't imagine the sound of that first rehearsal. There's gonna be so much joy to be back to making music,
Yeah.
and so much love of like, just being in that room together.
Yeah.
And I think that's like that first rehearsal. I mean, I'm just getting goosebumps just talking about what it's going to be like to be back on stage and how
Yeah.
much we're all going to love it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, that's really, really going to be, and then we'll be back to work and we'll be like, oh man, that it wasn't together.
Yeah.
Golly, I just wasn't in tune on that. And then, then we're like
I
15
know.
minutes later, we're back to work and like,
It will take like 1 second and they'll be like, that wasn't right. But you know, I've been doing other stuff. Like I haven't been posting like me playing very much, but I've been involved. There's a couple people I've seen on the list here. there's a dear friend of mine in Italy's done this teaching thing, piccolo practicing, and I've done that, and that's helped me focus too. And I know some CSO fans have watched some of that stuff,
Oh, wow.
and
And what's the website where we could see that?
it's on Facebook, but it's International Piccolo Festival.
Ah, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember I saw that, that masterclass a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and it's just kind of fun, and just other little things like yesterday. Well, you said I'm in Austin, Texas. I'm in Austin, Texas because my husband's the clarinet professor at UT Austin. And yesterday, Jerry Junkin, who's the wind ensemble director here,
Yeah.
uh, he asked me to talk to his conducting class. Now that was a private thing, but because I have the time, I could do it. And then I found myself talking about the CSO so passionately that it's not that I'm not passionate about CSO. I just don't talk about it too much because I'm doing it every day, and
Yeah.
you get into sort of a groove of like. But yesterday, I just felt so free to talk about my experiences and my love of the job, and I think this. I don't know. My husband also said you babble a lot,
Jen,
so
could I interrupt you really quick? You said some things that, number one, I'd love to touch on how you practice piccolo and how you got into the piccolo, but you also shared something about your love of the job and your experiences. Would you mind sharing some of those with us right now?
well, what struck me yesterday, I was asked, what's it like to play in the CSO, and I'm not very good with my words, but it's an indescribable feeling to me to sit inside this. I'm just gonna say band. Sit inside the band. I remember when I first played in orchestra in college. I don't remember saying this, but I remember my mom saying, I called home and said, I'm dropping my ed major. I'm going full music performance. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. I want to play in an orchestra.
And where were you studying at this point?
I did my undergrad at Duquesne University in
In
Pittsburgh,
Pittsburgh.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So I remember having that feeling like, you know, as a flutist, you're dead center. You're like completely surrounded by the whole sound of the orchestra. It's not just there like in the back or in the front. It's sort of like I just feel like I'm just enveloped by it, and I just thought that was amazing. And it's been amazing every job I've had, but sitting in the CSO is something mind blowing. It's
Well, Jen, I always say that I have like the
yeah,
best seat in the house. And like when I go out and I listen to the orchestra in the hall, it's not the same as sitting on stage and having it around me. And I would honestly love to get, board members or audience members into a rehearsal. Just come sit next to me for 5 minutes. Come sit
yeah,
next to me for 10 minutes. Watch my part. Watch what we do. Sit where I sit. Look at the conductor. Hear what I hear. You'll be a convert from then on of just how
yeah,
great an orchestra is, and
yeah,
also like how much fun it is, right? Like
yeah.
that's
I don't know if I use fun on a daily basis, but it's intense. I mean, it's like it's a drug for sure. It's
yeah.
just
Yeah.
yeah, it's
It's
just
that adrenaline rush. Like really,
yeah.
like when we're getting ready to play a solo, like the heart starts racing, and then
Oh
my
yeah.
stomach's up to here, and I'm just like, all right, here we go.
I guess I have what I watched a masterclass with my friend Sarah Jackson. She's in LA. What did she say? She said the piccolo. Uh, you're either something like you're just asleep or absolutely terrified. There's no in between. In the job I
Sounds like
sit in,
fishing.
so it's just like how many rests do I have? And then all of a sudden, like, oh my god.
Yeah, I always talk about the nerves as being like you're strapped into a roller coaster, right? And it's
Yeah,
like you're clicking up on this roller coaster, and then when you're at the top, you're either, oh man, like, oh no, geez, oh please make it stop, or you're like, wow, and it's like, which one do you want to choose, right? And for me, it's much more fun to enjoy the ride. So, and I think that's like how you have to look at it, like for me, for nerves, because
yeah,
they're gonna come, but just look at it and say, I enjoy this and let's do this.
Yeah, yeah.
So, how do you practice the piccolo?
Well, I guess I guess my approach to the piccolo is very much an extension of flute playing
Mm.
because it is a flute. But then, if you don't know the difference, the flute is just cylindrical. It's straight, like the one end is the same
Diameter.
circumference, the yeah diameter as the other.
Mm.
Just a long tube. The piccolo is conical, so where the part of the piccolo that you blow in is a larger tube than the end.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So because of that, I that's the extent of the physics lesson. There's um there's differences in intonation. I mean, for the most part, we're using the same fingerings as the flute does, with some slight variations. Wherever you go up high or something, but because of that change in the bore, some of the notes that we're so used to on the flute, like the typical flat notes or the typical sharp notes, they might be completely opposite on piccolo. So
Mm.
you just so that's one thing. When you're practicing piccolo, you have to sort of learn how to change your brain from, because oftentimes piccolo players are switching from flute to piccolo and back and forth all day long, and
Mm.
you just have to know right away when you pick up this one, the flute, these notes go here, and when you pick up your piccolo, these notes go here, and then of course, just like you guys, if you change brass instruments, one has a bigger mouthpiece than the other or smaller than the other. So you have to make adjustments with maybe the size of the airstream and, of course, the size of the embouchure.
Mm.
But other than those technical things, I try to approach the piccolo as I would the flute. I've been playing the flute what feels like my whole life, and it's an instrument that you learn to sing through. It's a very easy instrument to sing through once you get a hold of the not passing out thing. And it's a very vocal instrument, and I
Yeah.
feel that piccolo is too. It hasn't always gotten that kind of break, but I feel like the piccolo for me,
It's really clear that you sing through the piccolo. I mean,
I love it. Yeah,
when I
I do
hear you
love it.
play, it's not like you're a flute player playing piccolo. It's like you're a piccoloist. I mean, it's like you've taken that and that has become your voice, which is the
Yeah,
difference.
it is my voice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel very strongly about this. When I was talking to the conducting class yesterday, if anybody's there, hi, they were asking me about flute and piccolo and all that, and I said, well, I remember taking auditions, lots and lots and lots of auditions. I've taken a lot of flute auditions, and I know you were talking, you showed your book, your audition book the other day, all those excerpts that we all learn. Well, on flute, there were, still are, very specific excerpts that I hope to never ever play in my entire life.
Like
Because
Daphnis, like
I love Daphnis.
wow,
There's
okay.
other ones, but I but so when the excerpt book, I open the excerpt book, there are some pages that I just don't, I don't, I don't like those pages. But my piccolo excerpt book, when I started to take piccolo auditions, there wasn't a single excerpt I didn't want to play for real.
No way.
I just love it all. And I was sort of joking, like piccolo players will appreciate the Czech four thing, but Tchaikovsky fourth. Um,
Yeah.
it's a love hate, but I still love it, and it's terrifying. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that thing, and it's hard. And you either do it or you don't, and there's no like real. I shouldn't say this way. I don't feel like it's not a huge artistic outlet kind of excerpt,
That's for sure. Yeah.
but I still love to do it. And I for as many years as the CSO now has been playing Tchaikovsky 4, I I'm glad we're going to get a rest from it, but I'll still look forward to it when we do it again.
So that, I mean, I guess that'd be like a question for me as like a brass player. Like, we do a lot of sitting around and counting rests, and then we have to come in usually with a very like pure note, or we have to pick off a high note or something like that. That's kind of the nature of horn playing. Is you wait, you wait, you wait, and then all of a sudden you come in on a beautiful soft high note. For pickle, it seems like you sit around, you wait, and maybe you come in with something fast. Um, how do you practice something like that?
Uh, well, I think first of all, you have to be in really good shape. I
Hmm.
mean, I've heard you talk to several people now, and we all were sort of like long tones, long tones, long tones.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, you have to have a serious foundation of fundamentals behind you, or you can't do what you just described. So that has to be in place. You have
Yes.
to do that, and then of course, like something like the Tchaikovsky Fourth Piccolo solo. That's a huge piccolo excerpt. Um, it's on every piccolo audition without fail. I can like confidently say that to someone. If you're taking,
Is that a first round excerpt, or would that be like a second or a
it
final?
might be an every round excerpt.
Every round. So what you're saying is,
You're
it's
gonna
important.
play it. You're
Yeah.
gonna play it in the audition. So for that one, I remember early on. Of course, there has to be a period of time where you're picking the excerpt apart, you're practicing it in a very systematic way, and repetition, repetition. And then after you leave that part of the practice, I don't know how many months or weeks or years it's built into your system.
Mm.
For me, after I do a little bit of that, then the piccolo gets put away. I'm doing something else, anything else, going for a walk, doing the dishes. I don't do the dishes, but anything. And then it's like, okay, well, I better go play Check 4 now. So put the piccolo together and just do it
Oh wow.
and see if you can. I mean, you can't just pick it up and do it. There's got to be like, okay, I put the piccolo together and I have to like think about it and I have to think about what's going to come out. It's kind of like what you're saying, like you sit and you just have to be prepared. And it's almost the same, like it could be a sustained note or it could be all these fingers, but that airstream has to be so sustained, no
Hmm.
matter if it's a potato note or a million notes,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just so for me, it's the practicing has been done. I have to trust myself, I know it,
Mm.
and that my airstream is going to take me through. And yeah, there's a heartbeat that's up here.
Yeah.
But as long as that air is behind me and I have the confidence in knowing that I've done all the preparation I can do, then it's a matter of just executing it.
Mm.
And for me that was I mean, I remember way back when Jonathan and I were in Fort Wayne and I started taking some pickle auditions. I would just walk into my little studio, play the stuff, and go back out and watch American Idol or something, and he he's practicing now. He would be like, "Well, don't you have an audition?" I was like, "Yeah, I do, but I have to like play Check 4 without practicing it. I can't practice it for an hour. I can't even do that in the orchestra. You play nothing before the excerpt notes.
Yeah.
So there's no warm up note at all. He's very cruel in that symphony for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's like a huge insight into just like, you know, how you execute, how you practice, how you think. But yeah, just like what you said, it was trusting the preparation and knowing
Yeah.
that you've done all that you can do. And I think that's oftentimes when students talk to me about nerves, I say, well, have you, unturned every rock? Have you prepared really like you can? And so,
Well, yeah, like, I mean, I'm guilty of when I was younger. Like, yeah, I've done everything, but you haven't.
yeah, yeah.
And
I'm
so,
guilty of that.
I mean, for me, it was, I was so eager to take auditions, and I just was begging my teacher in undergrad, can I want to take an audition? I was so fortunate, but my teacher and, well, I've got a lot of wonderful teachers, but my two undergraduate teachers both won their jobs when they were in their 20s, early 20s.
Wow.
And I had this idea in my head if I didn't do that too, then I was going to fail.
Yeah.
I'm from a small town. I didn't go to Juilliard or Curtis or whatever. I was at a good school, but it wasn't a, like well known for pumping out performance majors. And
Hmm.
um, yeah, so anyway, I had this pressure of having like, I must get this done before undergrad. So I kept pushing him like, can I take auditions, please? And he finally let me. And I was not prepared for that first one. And um, he told me all the things. Did you practice this and this? And I was like, mm-hmm, but I didn't. And then when
Yeah.
I got there, it was like, oh my gosh, he was right. I should have prepared.
Yeah, it's like, those things like, did I make sure I played it with a metronome? Yeah, I got my times all right. Are
Yeah,
you sure you're in tune? Yeah, it's good enough. I'll get it.
yeah,
It's
yeah. But you learn you learn from these kind of um, situations. So I
yeah,
certainly did.
absolutely. Our gun, A Garcia
Oh,
Sons. He says, "Is that Jonathan playing?" And of course,
it
we've got a soundtrack of one of the best clarinet players in the whole country playing
is.
behind our interview. So it's great.
Well, he has to keep the dogs distracted.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny. So, could you tell me about what it was like for you to audition for the Chicago Symphony, and when did you do that?
Uh, yeah, so I've also heard you talk about like many auditions people take to get in the seats they sit in, and my situation, my story is no different. My predecessor uh, is Wally Kujala, and he's an amazing man. And he sat in that chair or in the section. I think he started as assistant, then moved to piccolo shortly after that. He was in the orchestra 47 years.
Wow,
And after he retired, there were 5 piccolo auditions to fill his chair.
5.
5.
Yeah.
And, and I eventually won number 5. Uh, but I took the audition 3 times, 3 out of the 5. I took it the first time, and I try to remember what year that was, and I'm not really sure, but it was one of my early pickle auditions. I really had, I'm not just saying this, I had no business being there, but this, as you know, the CSO is one of the, um, I think is one of the good things about us is that we don't turn anybody away.
Mhm.
Even if you have nothing on your resume, you can still come. And I think in my case, even at, well, it was audition number 4, I never held a piccolo job before the CSO job. And that's a big deal. I think
Yeah.
if I was in that flute section, not seeing Jennifer's ever played permanently a piccolo job would have been a red flag.
Yeah.
Maybe you should have been, but so anyway, I took that first audition. I have very little memory of it. I'm sure it was sort of one of those like, thank you from behind the screen, and that's fine. So, and then, I was young enough that when the audition opened again, it was sort of a time in my life. I was like, you know what, I'm not ready for a job like the CSO. You know, you just start being honest with yourself, and I need experience in other places. And I'm realistically, I wasn't a strong enough player to win a job
Mm.
like CSO. So I skipped the next 2 auditions and just probably at that point started my little path along the trail. And I don't know. I remember I was playing in the Louisville Orchestra when audition number 4 came along, and I was second flute slash assistant. There's a 3-person section there, and I my section mates were amazing, and the piccolo player said, "Well, the Wally's job's open again." And I said, "Yeah, I saw that." And he said, "Jennifer, you have to go. You have to take it." And I was like, "I don't know, Don." And he was like, "No, you just have to. It's, 6-hour drive, just go." And I did. I went, and I made the finals. And I was like, "What?" When they call out your name, like, uh, what? And that particular edition, I think the prelims were maybe in something like November or early December.
Yep.
the finals weren't going to be until the end of January.
Hmm.
And in, and I don't know about you, but I had never experienced that kind of situation where, you know,
Yeah.
usually you take the prelims 2 hours later in the semis,
Yeah.
maybe the next day is the finals, but the momentum is so, it's
Yeah.
just always there.
Yes.
But this was like, what do you mean I have to come back in a month? How am I going to keep practicing for that? But it's not
And,
something I
and right
asked.
over Christmas too, right? You're kind of like, oh man, it's like I gotta spend my Christmas practicing.
Well, at this point in our lives, Jonathan and I were just always practicing for auditions. So like Christmas, Schmishmish, we were always practicing. Um, so yeah, so I went back to Louisville, and uh, that colleague, Don Gottlieb, he said, well, okay, Jennifer, we got to get you in shape. So we would play piccolo duets before, like Kulau, which Kulau is like
Yeah.
flute duet Bible, right? It goes all the way, but we would play them on our piccolos before rehearsal. I remember going over to his house, you know, early on a Saturday morning while his wife was like doing stuff, and we were like shrieking on piccolos. And it was just, he really got me into shape. He was a student of Bill Hebert's uh, back in the day, and Bill was the piccolo player in Cleveland. So, and I have, you know, you talk about like your teachers and then your grand teachers and all this family tree of teachers. And my lineage of piccolo players comes from both Jack Welbum, who was in Cincinnati, and Bill Hebert in Cleveland. And then I had my, you know, teachers that were close to me, stuff. And anyway, Don was amazing getting me in shape.
That's so nice. What a gift to have somebody kind of just, coach you. I mean, I
Oh,
feel like mentorship is so important along this journey. You know,
yeah.
we
It
don't have
was,
to reinvent the wheel. It's like we find somebody who's, doing it, and then we're like, how did you invent this wheel? Show me how to make this wheel, like.
yeah, it was just sort of like, just like getting me in shape on the instrument. And then, of course, you know, I have a built in um, coach, I guess. Jonathan and I've always gone back and forth coaching each other. I know more clarinet excerpts than it is good for a flute player. And, you know, and he
So
knows all.
any clarinet players out there who want to play for Jen, now's your opportunity.
I'm very picky. But so anyway, it was great. And then that audition, just to get back to the audition story, that audition number 4 was maybe, I talked about this yesterday with the conducting class. It was maybe the happiest I've ever been, except one other audition occasion when I didn't win.
Hmm.
Nobody won that day. They didn't hire anyone, and but 2 of us were asked to come back to the next audition. But that day, in audition number 4, in the finals, Maestro Barenboim was sitting on the stage, just like, well, he would have been just right here, and coached, I'm assuming, every candidate through the excerpt, and just like movements of his hands or just little gestures. It was the biggest musical gift I'd ever had in my life, and I didn't care, honestly, if I would win or not. I That experience was enough to fuel me for a lifetime.
Wow.
And then no one did win, and I was asked to talk to him, and he was wonderful and was very honest with me about some weaknesses in my playing at that
Hmm.
point, because remember, I wasn't a piccolo player full
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really practiced those things that a piccolo player needs to practice,
Wow.
the knowing the pitch things. And just, I think if I could go back and hear myself, I'd probably be terrified. But I probably used the air in a little bit um, inefficient ways on the piccolo, and probably the sound was a little crazy and then would get back. I don't know. Just thinking about the inexperience I had on the instrument is
Mm.
probably what held me back. But he and the panel obviously heard something they liked, and he said, I want you to come back for audition number 5. And um, I don't know, a few days later, the CSO was about to embark on a 3-week European tour. And if maybe, I don't know, I don't think it was a whole 5 days after that audition number 4, I got a call from the personnel manager, Carol Lee. And she said, Jennifer, we have a vacancy in our piccolo chair for the European tour. I don't know what happened. I don't want to know. It worked out for me. But she said, Maestro Barenboim and our principal flutist, Mathieu Dufour, would like you to come. Would you be interested? And I remember driving somewhere and I was like, I have to pull over. And I pulled over into like a Bob Evans parking lot. I was like, you want me to go on tour?
Yeah.
What? And so anyway, long story short, I did go on that tour, and it was a almost 3 weeks, I think, and it was Maestro Barenboim and Boulez, and just you name every big piccolo excerpt you can think of, except Tchaikovsky 4, and it was probably on that tour, and it was terrifying.
Oh my God.
But
Unbelievable.
it was amazing. It was an amazing experience that the years now have really blurred together. But that, oh, thanks, John.
Yeah.
Um,
John says you're totally awesome on that tour. And he says
that was
Budapest.
terrifying.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of weight on that tour. I wish that would happen now, but that was, it was incredible. And it was just, it was sort of like a sink or swim. It wasn't part of the audition,
Wow.
but you had to either rise to the level or there's no point, and the level was incredibly high
Yes.
and inspiring, and yeah. So
We
anyway,
Josh Jones says,
hi.
hi John and Jen. I hope you're well. And Josh Jones has been saying hi, so I just want to say hi to Josh Jones drums. And then yeah, John Ye says 2005. I remember talking to Belez about you. He said you made a
Oh,
huge impression on everyone.
yay.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, it was an amazing experience, and then I think the that audition number 5, I think, was then scheduled. I wish I could remember dates and times like everybody else can, but I think it was maybe the end of June then.
Mm.
And this tour was like March-ish.
Mm.
And anyway, but I remember then myself and another person were being tried out a lot, being
Mm.
used in the chair, and the week of the audition, I was actually playing in the orchestra.
Wow.
So that was, and audition number 4, of course, I knew who some of the people were.
Yeah.
I knew some of the famous names of the Chicago Symphony, but I didn't know them. I didn't study in Chicago. I'd never been to Chicago other than auditions. So for me, I felt very separated. Like
Yeah.
I could separate that, like I'm just trying my best. And then audition number 5, I had been now on a European tour with the orchestra. I'd played a bunch. I'd started to get to know the people,
Mm.
and I loved it.
Yeah.
And I wanted it. Bye, Laura. Um, I I wanted that job so bad I could taste it, and I don't think I played very well in that final, but I won that day. So that
What did you learn between the time that you were on the tour and so like the 4th audition and the 5th audition? What did you like have to change in your playing, and what did you learn from playing with the orchestra?
well, I don't remember feeling like I had to change. That was kind of the beauty of it. At the time, Mathieu was the principal flutist, and my sort of flute playing, my undergraduate teacher studied with some of the same people Mathieu did, and I felt like I remember hearing a CD of Mathieu's. I don't know when, way before I auditioned for Chicago. And I remember hearing him play, I think it was like something like Prokofiev Sonata or something. And I remember listening to this CD thinking, I've never heard anyone play this the way my teacher would,
Mm.
or my teacher would tell me to play it because you know, I'm an American girl. There's a very sort of clear division between American school and French school of playing or European school, and
Oh, wow.
I was studying with uh, my teachers from Quebec and studied in Europe, and but it, I don't know if I'm saying that very well, but this CD sort of woke me up going, I feel like he he's kind of like my brother,
Yes.
or something. And then sitting in the orchestra with him, um, I mean, it's incredibly intimidating. He's amazing. Um, but I felt like it was just as natural as breathing to play phrases with him.
Yeah, I worked with him in Berlin, and I felt the
Yeah.
exact same way. It was immediately when I heard Machu, I just understood what he was doing, and I could lock in. It was like perfect intonation, very clear musical ideas, really clear phrasing, and it was just like it was so easy to join with that. It was
Yeah.
easy,
And
natural.
very natural. And the whole section for me was like that.
Mm.
I mean, the way you joined after Louise retired, right?
I after Louise, I never met Louise. Yeah,
Oh,
I just
well, the way they played together was like clockwork, and it was just the easiest thing to sit down and play with them. So
wow.
I felt like maybe it's a good thing. I felt like I didn't need to change myself, and I'm sure I have changed as I've morphed along and gotten older, but I feel like it wasn't a purposeful, like I didn't set myself on a
So maybe
change of course.
you became a little more confident in who you were and that you fit there, you belonged, but also maybe you really took the instrument to heart. You became a piccolo player as opposed to a flute player playing piccolo.
Yeah, and I remember at a different point later when I was trying to make some life decisions, I remember having a conversation with my father-in-law about some choices I had in front of me, and he's not a musician, but very wise and wonderful man, and he said, "Well, what do you my choice my choices in front of me were a second flute position or staying on piccolo, um, and he said, well, why do you like playing the piccolo? And at that point, I never really thought about it. I just did it, and it was very natural for me. It always has been, even though I didn't think I wanted to be a piccolo player, but it was always a natural
Yeah.
thing, which I'm grateful for. But I remember talking to him and saying, "Well, I love playing piccolo because it's like playing second flute. And when you're playing second, you have to fit into someone and lose yourself in their sound, and but also be strong." And I said, "But it's like doing that. I have to do that all the time on piccolo. You have to fit in when you're in the you know and but then um, I get to finish the phrase where Matthew can't go. I have to take his phrase where the flute physically can't take him, and I have to be the extension of that voice. And that to me, those were the most magical moments for me, where I felt like I could I could continue that. Like there's a very famous Mahler 9 flute solo. Beautiful, beautiful thing. But just a teeny bit of it, the flute can't go high enough. And the piccolo has to sort of take around this curve to get the flute back over the hump. And those kind of moments were the moments I was just living for, where
Mm.
I could figure out, I don't know, that sounds
Well,
corny.
no, it's where you could continue where someone left off.
Yeah.
And it's like you were a part of, I mean, that's what orchestral playing is for me. It's like I get to take this melody and continue like from where someone else can't, and I can say what they're trying to say and finish their thought and then hand it back to them.
Yeah. Like the
Jen,
other day you were talking, sorry,
we
go ahead.
we have about 30 seconds left. Can I
Okay.
stop this and start again, and so we can just do this one more time and just finish? because I feel like we're really, I mean, it's just the time is just flown by. Maybe we could just go
Yeah.
for another 15 minutes if you have time.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. We're gonna end this conversation and we'll just continue for another 15 minutes or so right here. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, we're back and we are going live with Jen Gunn. Jen was just in the middle of talking about what it's like to play piccolo in a fantastic flute section and how the piccolo can be a continuation of where the flute leaves off. And it's this amazing continuation of sound and continuation of musical ideas. It's kind of what some of the greatest moments of playing in an orchestra is continuing someone else's musical line. So Jen is joining us here, and meanwhile I can show you Muffy. Muffy wants to be part of the show here. Muffy is always a star of the chats. Hey, this is Muffy. She always has to get in the chat just a little bit. I set her a little bench. I have an ottoman right next to my foot, so she can sit there. So you were talking about just continuation of Mathieu's line and how you felt like he was like a brother because he had some of the same musical training that you might have had as studying with someone who studied in France.
Yeah.
And so you kind of felt like this is how my teacher would have played it. This is how I think of playing it. And when you heard Mathieu play, it was just like, wow, this is fantastic. I really, and you felt so lucky to be able to continue on his musical line.
Yeah.
It was so well said. It was so fun to hear you talk about those moments. And
Well, now I get to do it with Stefan, and it's amazing too.
Stefan brings this part to the orchestra. His sound is just so gorgeous. And we're going to talk to Stefan on Wednesday.
Oh,
so we're doing a CSL Flute Week. We'll have Emma on Friday.
yeah.
So this is like, it's so cool to get a chance to just have the CSL flute section here. But I mean, I fell in love with flute. I remember I feel like flute for me is like one of those instruments that when you hear great flute, there's nothing better. Absolutely nothing better. And, I remember the first time I really noticed the flute was when I heard Damari McGill in the Dallas Symphony. And I was just like, what is this? I'd never heard that sound that just like when he played, you just like turn your head and you're like, I have to see what is going to happen. Like I have to, you just can't stop watching. You're just drawn to it.
Yeah, I just watched him the other day. He did a little recital in his house, and then a little interview. It was fun to see him again, even though he can't see me watching him. But
he's just so much personality.
He's a great guy.
And he's actually from Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. John says Damare, Chicago, born and bred. And what I love about Damare is just his laugh. When he laughs, it's just like the whole world laughs at him. It's just,
he has contagious joy. It's like you.
Yeah, you too, though. Yeah, seriously. When I hear you laugh, I just I just have to join in. I'm like, where is that laugh? You could hear it across the hallway or in the downstairs and in the lobby or in the lounge. Yeah. So I think I guess I would just love to hear how obviously Mathieu was such a special person to us all, right? We love his playing. We love Mathieu as a person. We love the standard that he brought in excellence. But finding Stefan is another amazing addition to the orchestra, and it's so great in so many ways.
Yeah.
When I hear Stefan play, it's just this. I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my soul. I feel it in the ancestral part of my body. When he played Aida, that flute solo in Aida. The
slow thing, yeah, it was.
Or the octaves, da da dee da.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That,
yeah.
And I just remember thinking, I could imagine Iceland, just like that, especially when he plays Scandinavian music too. But I could imagine his Scandinavian roots, and it just harkened back to an ancient time for me. When I heard his playing, it's lose yourself in a different way with Stefan. It's
yeah. Absolutely. They're really different players, but both for me just it's just a joy to again try to match them. um, their musicality is different, but it's so magical. And Stefan brings, yeah, I like the way you say his Icelandic roots. Yeah, there's this shimmer that he has that it just is always above the orchestra, and it's different than Mathieu, but it's still
Yes.
amazing.
Well, I remember like the one concert that really like so our hall, you can attest to this. It's harder to hear across it sometimes, and there's not necessarily the greatest acoustic, which is like a plus and minus. In some ways, not having an acoustic makes us work harder on our own sound so that we produce a really warm acoustic.
Yes.
But when we took our orchestra to Carnegie, it was that second night, I believe we might have been playing the Prokofievs, and I just remember like Stefan's. The first night I was like, oh geez, oh geez, oh geez. I'm in Carnegie Hall. It's my first time ever playing in Carnegie Hall. And
Really?
yeah, it was my first time ever playing in
Oh,
Carnegie this last year. I was just like, I made it. I've arrived.
you finally made
Yeah,
it.
it was like, so I was 35 years old, and I practiced, and I finally turned left and was at Carnegie Hall.
No,
So
it's a big shift from our, like you said. I people complain about orchestra hall, but for me it's home, and that's, I know exactly what to do in my home. And I feel like Dave Griffin was talking about this the other day. When other orchestras come to our home, it's hard for them because their homes are much more resonant than ours, and they like don't know how to fill the space because they don't have to work that hard. It's I feel like it's a funny, um, we work hard, but you can't overwork, because if you overwork, then the sound doesn't go anywhere. So it's like, it's this very strange, how do I, what muscles do I use to do this? But when we go to Carnegie, the orchestra's glow that we have to put on at home,
yeah,
it, it's just like this radiation into Carnegie Hall. It's really amazing.
yeah, and everyone just like I feel like we're like all like singing in the bathtub. We're like,
Yeah.
oh man, or in the shower. You're just like, well, we sound really good. Wow, think about. And then the second night we were there, it was like, think about the sounds that we can make. Let's try. Oh, let's try having fun with this sound, and let's see what we can do with it, and like really expanding and like using our imagination. And that concert, particularly, I remember like I was just like, Stefan. And I was
Yeah.
just like, just captivated by his sound because I could finally, number one, hear him. And number,
Right.
and number two, like just like hearing like what he was doing in that space, in that sound. I was blown away.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
I feel really lucky. I'm surrounded by just, even with the changes, like I thought the orchestra I came into is just, how can I how can I live up to
mm,
contributing to this? And when Dan was talking about chamber music, it is, how can I contribute to this? People are so great. And now we've had all these changes, and everyone has brought their own little personality to it, but it's just this great. I just feel really lucky. Everybody on stage is just, is, yeah,
well, we
really.
have this standard that we come into, and then obviously at first you're just like, holy smokes, everyone's so good, and then like you're like, all right, now I just like at the beginning of the interview when I said like I hear the standard that you bring every day, and that inspires me to keep my standard at home, but I won't come to work with it any less than that standard because it's just that's the level you've set, and I know that if I don't bring that level that I'm going to be letting the team down.
That's exactly how I feel
Yeah.
from the very first day. Like, I can't I can't let these people down. I have to I have to bring more than an A. It
Yeah.
has to be like an A times 10 or more, because I need to be better than I believe I can be
Mm.
to keep the level. And I think, everybody's doing that, and it makes the orchestra just stronger and stronger and better and better. And yeah, and
I
it then also like bringing your A game allows this freedom that you can then listen and hear everything within reason. I mean, we can't hear cellos from the flute section. Sorry, guys, but you know,
Well, I mean, we trust that when we can hear it, like when there's a moment like Brahms 3 solo, we just know like that cello section is just, like one of the highlights of the orchestra. And
yeah,
so, I guess just it's love, right? It's the love of music, it's the love of the orchestra, it's the love of our colleagues, and those are the reasons why we prepare because I love doing this so much, and it's such a gift that we have an audience that like loves us that we want to give back so immensely that we keep
yeah,
practicing.
yeah. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I know we talked a little bit about sharing stuff in public, but I've been practicing the flute and the piccolo more for the just the pure joy of those fundamentals in this isolation period because I have the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I also have the desire to do it. I haven't stopped. I think maybe I've not played the flute well, I say flute, that could be flute or piccolo, but I haven't played my instruments maybe one day in this whole thing. Every day I get up and I'm like, you know what, Jonathan's teaching online a lot, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna practice. And I know his, just like you could hear him a little bit ago, his students are like, your wife's practicing again.
Oh,
I'm like, I just want to play all day, and I want to play those long tones, and I want to practice etudes, and I want to be in the best shape that I've been in a very long time. So when we go back to work, it's just a smooth transition of well, I've been doing this all along. I haven't, last year at this time, I took a big break.
yeah, it
It
was.
was a traumatic time, but
It's really hard to go through a strike. I mean,
yeah,
it's emotionally draining. It's just yeah, it's just it's hard. I mean, it's really there's a lot of negative feelings associated with that
yeah.
time.
But this year,
Yeah.
at this sort of strange, it's the same time as last year, the same time of year. But this time I just want to play all the time. The flute is always out on a peg on the dining room table, and I'm just like, I just pick it up and play whenever I want, hours and hours a day. And that's not a luxury I usually have when we're
Yes.
and
You said a word that I really like is a luxury, and I think this time that we have is really truly a gift. It's a
yeah,
time that we'll never get back, right? We'll never, we've got 5 weeks now before our next scheduled service, and we've had since March 13th.
13.
So I mean, how have you been using this time, and what are your goals for the future? And how would you tell students like to use this time?
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't, I would, that's a hard one, but I actually feel quite at peace right now. I feel, our jobs are full of pressure, a lot of pressure from externally, but also probably more pressure we put on ourselves to keep the standard high and all that. And not that I don't want to even practice with a lower standard, but I don't have that pressure on me right now to, you know,
Yeah.
do all that. So I'm really seriously just enjoying the just the space I can take to enjoy playing all of my long tones and all of the stuff and keeping little daily practice log and
Wow.
just
So you
not
remember you remember your discoveries, right? Yeah, that's
yeah, and like tempos and stuff. And I also, I'm pretty lucky. I mentioned this International Piccolo Festival earlier, but my friend Nicole is doing it with some help of his very talented students, and he's doing that every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So
no.
I'm missing him play right now, but it's just a practice session, and it's for me. It's either 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. in the morning, which is great because I don't have to like wake up at the crack of dawn. But those little morning sessions, just watching someone else go through practicing, then I find myself, oh, I want to try what he tried. I don't think of playing the notes that way, but now I'm going to try to think of it this way. And just I feel like this time has given me this freedom of exploration.
Mm,
Um, Not that I'm looking to change anything, but we're always evolving and developing our sounds
mm,
and our musical thoughts. And so I'm just really honestly just enjoying that freedom of open-ended time to do that. And then, you know, I'm in Texas. It's nice here, so I get to take, sorry, I get to take nice walks, and I'm with my husband, which, you know, most of the audience probably at this point now knows I don't get this luxury of spending time with him
mm,
like this. You know, I don't remember the last time we were in the same house every night for a month.
mm. Wow. That,
that's
that's a
that's
gift.
a
Yeah.
luxury that I'm not going to take for granted right now. I'm going to enjoy it, and you know, and we've got our own routines, but I'm just going to try to stay positive. And
Sorry, we lost Jen there. We lost you. There you go.
yeah, my phone was telling me I have a low battery, so I got to find a charger. So this
Well,
means we're going to puppy time.
puppy time. Well, you can show us the dogs here.
Can I turn
This
this
is,
around?
yeah, you just tap the screen in the middle.
Well, he
Look at
moves
the
a lot.
dogs. Oh,
That's Murphy.
oh, what a cute baby.
And
Oh,
so, so my house is
oh,
pretty dirty here, but
look at that. I see a tail wagging. I see a tail.
there's
So,
Spencer. Hi,
oh, oh
buddy.
my
He wants his
God.
tummy wrapped.
Who doesn't? You know, dogs are the best
And
like that.
then where's Dolly? Oh,
Oh,
so the flute's on the table.
yeah, you weren't
Flute and
kidding.
Claire. There's
Oh,
Dolly.
oh, they're all running to see Mama. I love seeing your fur family. That's so awesome. Thank you.
Oh, well, I
And
love seeing the kitty.
yeah, and it's so great to see you and to spend time together. Just really quick before we end, what advice would you give to students right now during this time? You've kind of shared some of the ways that you've been able to motivate your time and to spend your time. A lot of students don't have access to ensembles or to lessons, and there's a lot of like information that they could access online, like IMSLP, Petrucci Library, or YouTube. But it's like, where do I start? What do I do?
Yeah, I have been actually reading, like I was telling the civic students the other day, I don't have a lot of music here in Texas. I didn't bring a lot of stuff with me. Um, and so I've been scrolling through IMSLP trying to find good stuff and bad stuff. And when I find something I like, then we print it out. And I just try to have fun with new discoveries. And I mean, for me, I'm just really enjoying watching my friends teach their little piccolo classes, and then also there's other flutists out there doing flute sort of inspired warm-ups and stuff, and that's given me sort of new fuel, like maybe I've never played a scale that way or a long tone that way or thought about a phrase, and it's given me new ways to think about stuff. And
Wow.
um,
That's so inspiring to hear. Like, all right, you're like the top of the top of the top in my book, and you're like, hey, maybe I haven't thought of a scale like this. Maybe I haven't thought of a warm up like this. That's like you're always learning. You're always curious, and so just like maybe the advice to students is be curious, try new things, like search for information. Like this is your time to be a detective and to find new music that you like on IMSLP. Like just start somewhere. Like start with the cool owl etudes.
yeah,
you know,
well, I was just talking. There are three Kulau solo flute pieces I never learned before, and I printed them out, and now I'm serenading Jonathan day and night with this. And he's like, "Are you playing the fantasy again?" But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this weird time in the world has given us all this freedom to slow down
yeah,
and not be in such a hurry, and just take the time to, I mean, I don't know, music, when we're in school, we spend so much time alone anyway.
yeah,
there's a period that you have to self-discover, and now we've been given the permission to really do it
Mm.
and not be not feel weird about not being too social, or am I not being out in the world enough? Well, right now we're not supposed to be, so take the time to enjoy this self-reflection and discovery of your own instrument, and maybe others. If you have the time to sit down and listen to a whole opera, why not? We have all this great stuff going on. I think the Met's doing some live stuff. I think there's like a Andrew Lloyd Webber musical week on YouTube or something, like when we don't
There
usually
you
have
go.
hours to do stuff, you know. Yeah, I think it's just, for me, it's just been a great time to just slow down and enjoy everything. It sounds a little silly, but I'm just really grateful for. Oh yeah, John saying Berlin Digital Concert Hall,
And
that
it's
you can
it's
watch that.
free. It's free right now, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many great things if you want. And if you don't want, I think that's okay too. You have to, you have to do you. But that's what my bar class instructor would say. But
You
anyway,
do you.
yeah, do you? But I don't know. I just feel like we just have to do what feels right now, and whatever that is for you personally is the right thing, you
Yeah.
know?
And any just like last thoughts about why music is so important right now, like
Well,
especially in a time like now.
yeah, I mean, I, so many people have had so many wonderful, concise answers. For me, music has always been a way to express myself when obviously I babble and I don't have the right words to use. Um, and through my instrument, I can feel like the emotions I'm feeling can be expressed in a better way. And, like just, and when we come together in the orchestra, like we were talking about earlier, the joy that we all will feel is going to be palpable, and just something that will be really contagious for the audience to feel. And I think we do that on a regular basis anyway, but when we get back to this, it's going to be even more important. I mean, music's around us all the time, even though we might not even notice. And I mean, I think it's part of everyone, and you know.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate your time. Big hugs to you in Austin. I'm really jealous of all the great tacos you get to eat, Torchies, and you
Well,
know.
we haven't been eating out, so don't be jealous because we haven't eaten tacos.
Well, I hear they deliver, right? Torchy's tacos and Stubbs barbecue, and all
Yeah.
those wonderful, amazing, places in Texas. I miss Texas a lot and all my friends down there, but especially the Tex-Mex and the barbecue.
Yeah,
So
it's it's pretty easy to eat here.
rub it in. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll go have a Portillo's cheesesteak there.
Yeah,
Just a nice job. And a hot dog, Chicago hot dog.
they're good too.
Hey, they're right down there. They're good. Good hot dogs. All right. So Jen, I'll see
Well,
you later.
David, thank you so much. This has been so fun, and I'm gonna watch your next episode, and just I'll chime in and send little hellos and big
It,
hugs.
it's been
But
so
thank
nice
you.
talking to you. It's just
You
what a
too.
pleasure. I mean, just to spend the morning with you. It's just and hear your story, your journey, and your thoughts, and your love of music. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for joining in, and thank you especially to Jen. It's really nice to get to know you, and I can't wait to talk to your amazing flute colleagues this week on CSO Flute
I
Week.
I will be watching.
Yay!
Yay.
Thank you. See you later. Bye bye.
Bye.